Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Paranormal Primetime. Same show, different night from now on. Yeah, no more Supernatural Sundays. I gotta think of a new thing. I haven't been able to think of anything that starts with an F in the show yet, though.
Supernatural
Uh,
Saturday.
it's not Saturday though.
Yeah, no, I get it. Which our next day should be. I forgot about my lawns on Friday. I got kind of
Uh,
fucked.
well, we'll talk about that, but we'll see. And hey, Harley, thank you for watching, like always. Well, folks, we got two more episodes of season 2 this week for you. Some pretty decent ones too, so we'll get into that in a second a little more. But, well, actually, I'll say Malachi will get into that because it's his episode to start off.
Okay, we going?
Let's go. I ain't got
Okay, well
nothing.
my episode goes into a mother's love for her daughter. And speaking of mothers, next Sunday is Mother's Day. And you guys need to buy one of my steel roses before I sell out, okay? I can't make too many more of these. $70 a pop. Hit me up. But after we got that plug there, we're at season 2, episode 5. Simon Said, and I was pretty happy with my episode. So the writer was Ben Edlund, and the director Tim Lacofano, which I don't think we've seen them before in any of the other episodes.
Yeah, I don't believe that those names don't sound familiar at all to me either. So,
Yeah, but I mean, they did a good job. We'll rate it afterwards. But it starts off, so we see a clock and a happy black guy just strolling down the street in a suit that does not fit, a little baggy, even for the mid-aughts. But he gets a phone call, and then we flash to Sam having a flashback of, like, this whole fucking scene of him, like, pulling out a naughty shoddy and fucking shooting shit, right? So we
yep.
jump forward, and the dude actually, in real life, walks into the gun store, and he knows the guy that he's talking to. And the guy's like, "You don't like guns, though, Doc?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just want to see it, blah, blah, blah." Hands him the gun. "What kind of bullets does this take?" "Well, these are the types of shells. We're going turkey hunting this week if you'd want to go up to the cabin with us." And he starts putting the shells in the fucking shotgun. And the dude's like, "No, you boy, no, whoa, cannot do that here." And Doc says, what exactly did he say? "It's going to be okay." He's telling everybody it's gonna be okay as he's fucking loading it in, shoots the cashier, gun store guy, and then shoots himself in the head. And that's
Yep.
a pretty crazy way to start off an episode.
Yeah, that was one hell of an opening scene. But
Yeah, I mean, we're talking the first 3 minutes here.
literally, like it
So
was.
they
And I was
never
trying to
really.
look. I
Oh,
was trying to look up to see if the doctor was. He looks familiar, but apparently he's not. He's not an actor well known enough to actually have like a Wikipedia page. So,
okay. Yeah, I kind of fucked up a different person I thought was an actor. I'll get into later.
mm,
But okay, so the Doc blasts himself, and then we're riding down, and this was the first time I've noticed in an episode where they haven't said, like, where it's taking place in the beginning. But we
yeah,
do hear the radio says Rockin', Nebraska. But then they're going to the Roadhouse, right? We've a
yep,
lot of tie in to the Roadhouse here with Ash and everybody. And Dean's hesitant to go to the Roadhouse, but Joe, Roadhouse opening scene, Joe, fucking Ellen's daughter, is hustling money at the Hunt game. just fucking beating everybody. Then the mom says, "Did you see the high score? It's just Joe, 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 Joe." Um, Sam doesn't ask how Joe's doing and goes straight to Ash, which was kind of a dick move. And then they're both banging on the door and he's not answering, but he finally answers when Dean comes up, knocks on the door, and says, "Hey, Dr. Badass." And then he comes out naked. You don't know what he was doing in there.
We can picture.
Uh, yeah, we can picture. They they were searching Guthrie, which I don't remember exactly what that. I think that had something to do with the demon. I don't know why. I was fucking in here making roses while I was watching this. But
Yeah, it has to do with the demon.
yeah, so that's what they were doing, right? They were searching all these fucking
Signs. Yeah,
the
all the signs.
kids who died at 6, or the moms who died with the 6-month baby fire thing. And Ash says, "That's just weird, man." And then they say, "There's a PBR in it for you. I will have it in 15 minutes." Cut to Dean and Joe listening to REO Speedwagon. And Dean kind of talking shit. Um, and then we go back to the car, and Dean and Sam are driving. And Dean just starts singing REO Speedwagon. We got a gay meter of 2 at this point. Sam calls it out. And what do they got here? Andrew Gallagher is the dude they're looking at, right? And that's his last. They have his last W-2. They're looking for this guy, Andrew Gallagher, who they think is one of these kids that is killing the black dude and making him do all this crazy shit. And you won't get anything. I don't know what the fuck. Okay, so they're looking for a van with a barbarian queen riding a fucking polar bear. And I thought that was a pretty badass fucking van.
Yes, it was.
I would drive that. No joke. Just weld a ladder
Same.
rack on the top, we'd be good to go. So Sam realizes that he's one of them, and like one of these people who's just like, because the last person they turned into is killing all these people. They think this new kid is just like killing people for fun, and Sam thinks he's gonna fucking go off the deep end and just start like killing people for no fucking reason. Dean kind of talks him off the edge, and then we see this ugly goth dude wearing like a cape and sweatpants leaving this house with a chick way out of his league saying goodbye to him down in the street view. And some dude he talks to just gives him his coffee. And they're thinking this is their man, right? This is the guy. So Sam follows the doctor who's about to do this shooting, and Dean follows this guy, Andy go through or whatever. Andy notices Dean following him, and this is where I fucked up. I thought Andy was the lawyer from Idiocracy and the brother in
Ah,
Parenthood, but I was totally fucking
you
wrong
thought
on
you
that
thought it
one.
was Dak. You thought it was Dak Shepard.
I did, yeah, for like a strong minute. My wife had to tell me I'm blind.
Obviously.
So Sam or fucking Andy's telling Dean he's got a cherry ride, and can I have it? And fucking Dean, stupid look on his face, happy as fuck, great actor, says, "Yeah, sure, man, here you go," and just fucking gives him the thing. Cut to Sam following Doc, and he pulls the fucking fire alarm before the guy has his chance to go into the gun store and start shooting. But the dude walks in front of a bus anyway and kills himself. So Sam calls Dean because the dude's got the Impala. Hey, he's got the Impala. And he Obi-Wan'd me, motherfucker. But
Yeah. Good reference. That was a good cultural reference.
that one was, yeah, it was a great fucking episode. So the black dude steps in front of the bus, Doc or whatever, and Andy goes and tells the waitress that he thinks these dudes are following him. And fucking Sam and Dean get into this thing because Dean doesn't think Andy's the type of dude that's just offing people, but Sam is like, this dude is guilty as fuck. And Sam's pissed because he's like, you're always thinking they're guilty. You said OJ was guilty when he was in the Bronco. And Dean says he was fucking guilty. I thought that was a good little fight they had there. So they break into this fucking, Viking goddess riding a polar bear van, and they find it's got a disco ball, a fucking 4-foot bong. It just does not look like a van with a dude who's just got this plan for world domination type shit, right? He's just in there getting high, doing whatever the fuck he wants. Moby Dick's bong, which, I mean, there's bigger than that. It was a little 4-footer. It was a cool bong, but it wasn't the biggest. Then they're at the restaurant, or they're eating, and there was a little talk about I'm tired of eating microwaved mini mart food. And Dean still doesn't think he's the killer. And Andy comes up to him and says, why are you guys following me? But it doesn't work on fucking Sam. Dean, on the other hand, he just spills the beans immediately to this kid who knows nothing, right? He just got these abilities a couple of months ago or whatever. And Dean says, we hunt demons and spirits. We think you're fucking possessed by the devil. And Sam's like, Dean, shut the fuck up. And Sam, Sam might, he says, Dean says, Sam might become a murderer like you. That one was pretty funny.
it's
And then
it's a first. It's a first because it's the first time we see Sam being immune to a supernatural being's powers.
that's right, because what the other kid, he like pushed
Yeah,
um the dresser in front, but
yeah. He
the
didn't
other
push
kid
Sam. Yeah,
manipulated shit, so he could still technically like get the knife and kill him, I would assume.
yeah,
And now we know they all have fucking different magical powers. But Sam's confronting Andy, and Andy's like, what the fuck, dude? Normally I just tell people to do shit, and they do whatever I say. And it's not working on Sam, and Sam is way the fuck bigger than Andy.
yeah.
So then all of a sudden there's another vision with a phone call, and it's a vision of this girl, this older lady who just starts drenching herself in guzzling and saying it's gonna be okay. And Andy's gifts are better. I shouldn't write this shit when I'm drunk. But okay, yeah. So after the vision, they find out that Andy's gifts are better than Sam's. Like I find when people are about to die, that's kind of gay. And then they're talking to Andy, and he's like, "Why would I be a murderer? I have everything I need. I got my fucking van. People give me food. I do whatever I want." And then we find out the woman is Holly Beckett, 41, single, and we don't know her yet, but we find out that she gave birth the day Andy was born, and the doctor was the one who delivered this. So I mean, at this point, you're just wondering, like, is the doctor and the mom all connected to Andy? Andy walks into the fucking birth record place and just makes them fucking hand over these hard copy birth records. And then he finds out that he has another brother, and that kid's name is Ameson Waynes, who was fucking adopted out somewhere else. And the brother works with Andy's main bitch we saw earlier in the show, the one he actually likes, and at the restaurant. But the brother is getting crazy with his girl, and he says, "Come on, Tracy, tell the truth." He changed his name and moved there 8 months earlier, and tries to be Andy's best friend, but he's like really fucking weird. And I thought that might have been the one flaw with the story is like, was this dude Eamon pretending that Andy could just tell him things to do and he would do them?
Maybe, or maybe he just didn't have no experience with his powers to resist it. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
kind
they
of a
didn't.
flaw in the story. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they didn't really get into that. But fucking Andy thinks his brother's a weirdo too. And Sam has another PMS attack. This time, gay meter 4, and it's making that girl, Andy's main bitch that works with his brothers at the restaurant, jump off of a fucking dam or bridge or something to her death. So then they go find Tracy, and the brother tells her it's okay, and Sam and Andy just jump the fucking brother, right? But
Yep.
the brother uses Tracy to pick this weird ass looking fucking dug up trunk stick thing in the middle of the road that I think should have no business being where the fuck it was. But Tracy hits fucking Sam, and you know, I don't know. I thought that was kind of another flaw too. That stick did not belong to be in the middle of the street there.
No, definitely not.
So now the fight breaks out, and they're both trying to control Tracy to stop this fight. And Tracy's at the edge, and they're going, "I'm stronger than you. My dick's bigger." Blah 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 blah. And the brother Amon's like, "Tracy is coming in between us," and goes on about how he killed the mom and the doctor. And I don't think we ever found out about the father, did we? No, Jeremy's gone.
No, we didn't find out. We did not find out about the father.
But we do find out that fucking Yellow Eyes came to Eamon and told him that he has big plans, um, which was another weird thing, right? Because we don't think the first kid Yellow Eyes went to. I mean, Sam and Dean are trying to hunt Yellow Eyes, but this like cool cat that lives in the badass van has never met Yellow Eyes. And at the same time, all this shit's happening. Dean is like way back there, which I don't know how the fuck this kid knew Dean was trying to snipe him off. But they're about to make Dean shoot him in the face, and Dean makes Tracy pick up the gun and shoot his brother in the head, which was kind of cool. And then that's when we find out that fucking Andy tells the cops he killed himself, blah blah blah. And since he's got these magical powers, they fucking believe him. But Andy's pissed because his main girlfriend over there, he had never actually told her. He didn't force her to be with him or force her to do anything.
But
And
which it's kind of funny almost because the look on the cops' faces when he's telling them like that, like they believe him because they have to, but you can tell by the looks in their face. The look on their faces is like we don't want to believe you, but we
it's
have to.
like, yeah, this bullet does not. There's no gun residue, right? But I wonder what happens in that scenario when like Oh, the kid said he shot himself, but there's no like powder residue from
Yeah.
behind his head. It's like a Hillary Clinton shooting, right? Like twice in the back of the head while you're hanging yourself from an extension cord and the gun's 30 feet away. Um, but so Sam and Andy exchange digits. You know, they want to keep tracks on each other.
Yep.
And be good or we'll be back is the warning they give him. You use these powers for bad, we're coming. And I got some shit here where Sam is saying, I was right. He was a killer because he had to kill his brother. And Dean says he's a hero. And Sam said he killed someone. And Dean says, you're being gay, Sam. And Sam says, maybe the demon's making us insert tamps. I heard you last night. Do over. Exact quote from the show. And then Helen calls. She knows about the whole like 6 month year olds and the moms and yeah. Then there's mind your tongue with me, boy, because fucking Sam or Dean gets a little lippy with her.
Yep.
And then Sam spills the beans and no house. Oh, we find out that the fucking brother did not have a fire in his house when he was 6 months old, which is another thing. Like, why is Yellow Eyes going after the brother if there was no fire and all this shit?
Be- because it shows that it disrupts the search because it shows that not all parents interfered with Yellow Eye's plans, so he didn't have to do that to every house.
Oh, so he only burnt the houses down of the fucking mothers that woke up.
Yeah, he only killed the mothers that woke up.
Okay, I thought it was like part of the whole ritual or something, but he was just
No,
bleeding in a bunch of moms who could sleep through anything's babies' mouths.
yeah, his diabolical plan we can't talk about yet. Yep, but
Okay.
uh, yeah,
I give it a 4.5. That was a
that was
great
my
episode.
yeah. I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm gonna give it a 4. I it was predictable. I think a little predictable, but it was entertaining nonetheless. It was a. It's not the best comedy episode they've done. They do a lot better comedy episodes in the past and the future. So I'll give it a 4. I'm not gonna be too generous with it, but
I think if they waited a little longer for Dean to question whether or not it was Andy, it would have been more of a like twist. But I think with, fucking 40 minutes, they did a good job of the twist
yeah,
story.
they did. It was a good job. It was a good job. I mean, they got a 4. I mean, that's better than anything. But
Yeah, better than bugs.
oh god, that's what the already saying. Better than bugs. But uh my episode, I guess. Time. It's season 2, episode 6, and it's called No Exit. Written by Matt Witten and directed by our girlfriend Kim Manners. We definitely heard that name before. So
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think she does a lot of dark episodes. But uh well, this episode uh opens in an apartment building. Uh there's lights are flickering, scratching on the walls. A girl's complaining on her phone about the lights flickering. She sits on her couch and notices some black tar-like substance on the coffee table fall from the ceiling, and she hears the scratching becoming louder. She gets up and walks towards the other end of the room, and she sees more black, nasty stuff oozing out of the light switch, and it starts flowing down the side of the wall. And she looks into the screw hole of the switch, and a man's eye pops up, and she screams loudly. But Sam and Dean we flash to them. They're outside the roadhouse making jokes about heading to LA to investigate the disappearance of Katie Holmes, who's been kidnapped by an evil cult. However, which I don't know if that I don't know if that was relevant at the time or not, if it was actually based on a real thing. But
Wasn't she in Scientology?
maybe I don't know
I
that much.
think I think that was the reference because I think she'd just gotten out of Scientology or something.
Uh,
She was
but
the
they,
girl from the first Batman, right?
yeah. She was in the. That's one of the main movies she's been in. But yes, she was in the first Batman. Batman Begins, not the first Batman, but Batman Begins. Yeah,
Yeah, like the first Nolan Batman, the good one.
yeah, yeah. I agree. But as they're getting in the car outside of the roadhouse, they hear screaming, yelling inside the roadhouse, and go to see what's wrong. And Joe and Ellen are arguing over whether Joe should be allowed to go on a hunt by herself. And yes, folks, this is a family drama episode, just not Winchester family. It's just a very family drama heavy episode. But the phone rings and Ellen goes to answer it. And while she's distracted, Joe shows Sam and Dean the case on the death of the girl in the Philadelphia apartment 3 days ago. And over the past 80 years, 6 women have disappeared from the same building, all young blondes. The murders only happen once every decade or two, and so the cops never really put together a serial killer or any type of pattern like that. Dean asks if Ash put this case together, and Joe says she did it herself. She's a big girl now. Ellen tells the boys to take the case and says to Joe, Joanna Beth, this family has lost enough. I won't lose you two. I just won't. So the boys head to Philly and sneak into the girl's apartment and scan the room with their EMFs. Sam picks up high signals as he goes past the light switch, and he starts noticing the tar-like substance, and he recognizes it as ectoplasm. And Sam said
Is
he's only seen it
that's
once.
a first, right?
Yeah, it's a first in the show, that's for sure. And Sam says he's only seen the stuff once or twice, and in order to make it, they have to be a really pissed off spirit. Dean makes a joke about them facing the Puff Marshmallow Man, and gotta love it. Dean's Ghostbuster references always, but and they hear voices as they're walking down the hallway, leaving the apartment. They hide behind a corner. As they get closer, they realize it's Joe's voice, who apparently followed them there, and she's talking with the building manager about renting the apartment. And then, as Dean and Sam confront her about what she's doing there, she quickly says that Dean's her boyfriend and that Sam's his buddy, and they need a fresh start and they want to rent the apartment. Dean goes along with the whole charade, and he says he wants the apartment after a lot of squeezing from both of them. And she opens her purse and pulls out a handful of bills in exchange for the key to the apartment. And we fast forward in the apartment where Sam and Dean are getting the weapons ready. And Dean asks Joe if her mom knows she's there. And Joe says no, she lied. She left a note saying she was in Vegas and that she got asked to lay a credit card trail all the way to the casinos. Dean's phone rings right about that time. It's Ellen, and she wants to know if Joe's with them. Dean wants to tell her, but he ends up covering for Joe and saying that he hasn't seen her. Stupid. But they go into the building's history, and they find out the building was built in 1924 as a warehouse, and then turned into apartments a few years earlier. Before that, there was nothing. There were no violent deaths, and they think it could possibly be a cursed object. But they scan every area of the building they can get to, and Dean Joe wants to go on her own, split up, but Dean says there's no way in hell he's letting her out of his sight. And as we're scanning the first 2 floors and arguing about the hunt, Joe jokes saying that using herself as bait would be the quickest way to catch a spirit. And Dean instantly says, I'm regretting this. But at that moment, Joe finally confronts Dean about his attitude towards her. She's tired of his chauvinist crap, thinking women can't do the job. This is this I, a lot. This is my problem with this episode. A lot of this episode gets too dialogue-y and too, it's just too drama.
I think Joe looks too young. Like I don't know how old she was when she was an actress, but if she's 18, she is barely 18, and Sam is
Mm-hmm.
pushing or Dean's pushing 30.
Yeah,
It just
easily.
looks weird. It looks fucking I don't know.
But Dean tells Joe that she's got options though, and that no one in the right mind chooses to be a hunter. That she should be grateful to have a mother who cares for her and wants more for her. They keep investigating, and Joe stops at the turn corner, scanning the halls, and we look. The camera shoots down to the vent, and we see gray, gushy fingers extending out. Joe gets a feeling and turns around suddenly, and the fingers are gone. Dean senses a smell that he recognizes but can't put his finger on. And Joe picks up some high signals as she scans the vent. Dean unscrews the vent and reaches in, hoping to find something, and manages to pull out a lock of blonde hair still attached to the scalp, which was nasty as all fuck. But and it then jumps to a scene of another woman in the apartment building walking into her apartment, reading her mail, and a drop of ectoplasm hits the mail falling from the ceiling. Once again, the lights start flickering, and she looks up at the ceiling and sees the wall shredding open. She rushes to the phone, only to get static. She tries the front door, but it's force locked. And as she turns around towards the wall, she sees the hand coming out of the vent. It grabs her by the leg and pulls her in somehow. I don't see how a fucking body is going through a vent, but I'll let that go. I guess. I guess. But the next morning, Dean is sleeping on the couch and he wakes up to the sound of sirens outside. Joe apparently didn't sleep at all that night. She was just going over the case. And Dean sees her twirling around her little small knife, and he takes his large big boy knife out of his bag and hands to her, saying it'll work better than that one. She hands him hers, and he reads the inscription on the knife, W.A.H., William Anthony Harvell, which Joe tells him was her father. Dean apologizes for the mistake, and she asks him what's the first thing that comes to mind when he thinks of his dad, and he tells her about a time when he was 6 and his dad took him targeting for the first time, and he bullseyed everyone. Yeah. And Joe talked about how she remembers her dad's coming home from a hunt each night and how happy she and her mom were to have him home because they were a family again. And Joe says she wants to do this job for him. Sam walks in and found out that another girl, Teresa Ellis, in apartment 2F, disappeared last night. There were cracks all over the walls and ceiling, ectoplasm too. Joe points out in the picture over the area that the building next door was once a prison. And she calls up Ash to look it up and get information. He finds out it was Moyam Singh Prison, built in 1835 and torn down in 1963, a real place, where they execute people by hanging them in the empty field next door. Ash emailed Sam a list of everyone executed, 157 people, and I'm pretty sure if you look that up, that's right. But I didn't have time to really actually look it up. But
I got
one of the names,
doing it on the phone, so I can't look it up.
yeah,
I gotta start doing this on the computer. Then I can.
But yeah, would be. One of the names on the list is Herman Webster Mudgett, which for any of you true crime nuts out there, already know that's H.H. Holmes. And so Sam pulls up information on Holmes, and he finds out he was killed on May 7th, 1896 at that prison. And when Joe asks who he was, Dean explains that they made up the term multi-murder to describe him. He was America's first serial killer before anyone knew what a serial killer was. All very true. And that he confessed to 27 murders, true, but the death toll is way over 100. I think they know it's more than 27 now, actually, even. And his MO was always blonde women, and he used chloroform to kill them.
With that, though, like, a lot of these dudes who were like once you got 3 murders and there's no way you getting out of there, right? Like, a lot of these people fucking take credit for all the other things to.
But that's the thing. Holmes never admitted to any of the murders. He just it was suspected because of the amount of women that disappeared in the time around that area. But they just never could prove it, so they couldn't. And back then, they definitely weren't going to say like, "Oh, yeah, it's definitely this guy because he was there." Like, no, back then they needed hard proof before they would just blame people on shit. So he never admitted to anything. Dude was a stone cold fucking killer. He never admitted to shit. He wasn't about the glory. Okay. It was just a sickness.
I've heard the name. I've never actually.
Oh, American Horror Story Hotel is kind of based on him, and he's like the Winchester Mansion. Like, it's so many secret doorways and acid pits and live fields underneath the hotel, underneath the building he used. I mean, he built a whole freaking murder house just to kill people. He was a sick man. But
I've heard the name. I've probably listened to a crime episode or something about him before, but it's been a while.
But he used chloroform to kill them, which that is when Dean realizes that's what he smelled in the hallway the previous night. The cops found Cops found human remains and long locks of blonde hair in his home. They see, and Joe says, "Why don't they find the bones and salt them, and burn them?" And Sam says it's not easy. He was buried in town, but it's encased in several tons of concrete. He didn't want anybody mutilating his corpse because that's what he used to do, and that's actually true. He was buried that way. It's a very
Hey,
uh,
if our podcast ever gets big enough, we should buy that cemetery, dig him up, and shit on his bones.
I say we salt them and burn them, but okay, we can do that first. Uh, but
Yeah, shit first, burn later.
But Sam also points out what I was just talking about, that Holmes built an apartment building in Chicago, which came to be known as the Murder Castle, and that it had secret chambers, trapdoors, acid vents, and quicklime pits. He built the chambers inside the walls, locking his victims inside, keeping them alive for days. He would suffocate some and let others starve to death. All very true. And
Fucking crazy.
Dean says, okay, time to get some sledgehammers and crowbars, because they start breaking through the drywall and head inside the walls to search for any sign of Teresa, the second missing woman. And they come across Dean and Joe come across a path that's too narrow for Dean to get through, the big man he is. So Joe says, I could fit through, and she continues to go down her own despite Dean's plea for her not to. And she follows the path to her north wall and heads down an air duct to her lower level. And she sees more ectoplasm start seeping through the bricks. Still on the phone, Dean hears her screaming, and a few seconds later, their call cuts off, and Dean rushes down the next floor, hammers into the drywall trying to find her, but all he finds is the cell phone. And they were in the walls all night searching for her and can't find her, and no sign of her. Dean's phone rings. It's Ellen, and she's boiling mad because he lied to her. Because Ash may be smart as a whip, but he folds at the freaking slightest sign of him about to get slapped. So she demands to know where Joe is, and Dean tells her they'll get her back. Tells her, I promise. And and Ellen says to him, you promised. That's not the first time I've heard that from a Winchester. Which Dean immediately is like, what? Like, because it's something they have no idea what the hell she's talking about. And she says, I'm on the next flight out, and slams the phone down. Right as Sam notices that there's a sewer system connected to the building, and they immediately head out to try to find it. Joe wakes up and finds herself trapped in a dark space that's really tight. She turns on her flashlight and sees fingerprints and dried blood on the ceiling. Very pleasant sight. In the next room, Joe sees Teresa, and she tries to reassure her that Sam and Dean will find them. Holmes walks into the chamber and reaches into Joe's cell and grabs a handful of her hair. It cuts down. It cuts. We cut over to Sam and Dean finding the hatch to the sewer. Back in the chambers, Holmes whispers how Joe is so beautiful. And he starts to touch her. The typical creep he was. He manages to. Joe manages to grab her knife, which is made of pure iron, and stabs his hand. He lets out a shout and vanishes, which is our first actual confirmation this man's a spirit. The scene cuts to Dean crawling through the sewers for a moment before coming back to the girls. I don't know why they went back and forth so much in this. They could have fucking let the whole interaction with Holmes finish and then go back to the guys, but whatever.
I don't think him as a ghost was done good, so I kind of like less of him in the fucking scene.
Yeah, I mean, they made him look more like human than ghost.
Yeah, I think they fucked up there.
But Teresa asks if Holmes is gone. Joe says she doesn't know. And a moment later, Holmes reaches into her cell, knocking her knife away and covering her mouth, starting to suffocate her. At that moment, Sam and Dean burst into the chamber and fire several rounds of rock salt into his stomach. They get Joe and Teresa out of the cells. Sam gets Teresa out of the sewers, but Dean says they have to use Joe as bait because it's the only thing he can think of at this point. Joe agrees to it, since that's what she wanted from the beginning, and sits in the middle of the open chamber, sitting perfectly still. Holmes suddenly appears behind her and inches closer and closer to her. As he's hovering directly above her, Dean fires a buckshot into the ceiling, releasing salt that falls to the ground in a perfect ring surrounding the entire chamber, trapping Holmes inside. Which we have a nice scene of them getting out as Holmes is screaming his head off because he realizes he's trapped. Which I don't think they ever go back to that. I don't think they ever go back and have him getting out or anything. So it's kind of interesting because they don't kill him. They just trap him, which is, I think it's the first time they actually trapped a spirit.
Well, I mean, the next scene I had a huge problem with, but
We'll get to that in a minute. But
yeah.
but they say like, what if any water leaks down there and makes the salt disappear, or what if someone finds the entrance to the store and goes down there? But Dean shows up in a cement trunk he stole, and he fills the open hole to the store to be sure that Holmes remains down there until all hell freezes over. And we fast forward to with the four of them driving back to the roadhouse with Ellen in the car. Everyone's dead silent. Everyone's quiet as a mouse, and Dean uh, hilariously turns on the radio, and Cold as Ice by Foreigners playing, which is the perfect song at the moment. And Ellen quickly shuts off the radio and just stares at him. They get back to the roadhouse. Dean tries apologizing to Ellen once again for lying to her and says that Joe did well out there, that her dad would be proud. Ellen said she needs a minute alone with her daughter, and Ellen can't believe that she trusted her life to these boys. A few minutes later, Joe storms out of the roadhouse and tells Dean to back off and leave now. Turns out that John was her dad's partner on his last hunt, and John got her dad killed. That's why John never mentioned Ellen to the boys, because he couldn't look at her in the eye after what happened. Joe walks back into the freaking bar, and the episode ends there. So now we find out why John stopped going to the bar.
Yep.
And
that's
we find out.
that's what I meant with the mama drama, Mother's Day next week. Buy a steel rose. She's plug number
Yeah.
2.
Well, we never have ads, so might as well. But this is also the first time ever that 4 people are in the Impala.
Oh shit!
That's never happened so far. But the most we had was 3 with John with the boys. But
well, hold up. What about the episode 2 or 3 in the camping, like the Wendigo, when they all went up or came back camping? You're probably right. They probably didn't show any of that. So
they didn't. I mean, and they had their own car. Sam and Dean didn't drive them up there.
okay, yeah, you're right. I'm mad at just that play.
But some interesting trivia for this episode. Apparently, this episode gets its name from John Paul Sartre play No Exit, in which 3 people are trapped in a small room together in hell, only discovered they are meant to act as each other's torturers. But interestingly,
That's a stretch.
But and one of the supposed pictures of Holmes' victims was actually a picture of one of Jack the Ripper's victims, Elizabeth Stride. Some people actually have theorized, and this is true, that H.H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper were the same person.
But what one was in America and one was in England, right?
People can get on boats, Scott, Malachi.
But the victim did?
No, the victim was the same picture, but it's a theory in real life that Jack the Ripper and H.H. Holmes might have been the same person.
So some rich cunt. They didn't have to go to work tomorrow, fucker.
Obviously.
I had a huge problem with the fucking concrete. That wouldn't. You can't just go and fill a. It's not a sewer system. It's a storm drain system, right? But they have these maintenance rooms where they're getting to, wires or clean outs or sewer clean outs within. You ain't fucking just filling a space in a storm drain system with concrete. Nobody's gonna fucking dig it all up. And plus, the concrete would move it when they dig the concrete up. That spirit's coming right back. We're talking maybe they slowed them down for 2 months at the most. Union employees, maybe a year.
I mean, if they get to, but that's even if they go down there and go to the chamber with the salt. Even that's what really would have to happen is the salt would have to freaking be moved for him to get out.
Well, they're gonna rip that once that concrete shit's in there, dude. Yeah, they're gonna. I mean, that's not just shit. The city found out that a whole fucking maintenance area of our storm drain got concreted in. I guess we'll just leave this here forever.
That's the thing. They said it was an old part of the sewer system. It probably isn't used anymore even. Otherwise, they
I'm
would.
still calling bullshit.
Otherwise, somebody would have came forward with the story of finding this murder chamber.
Eventually somebody's gonna find that shit and they're gonna want to know what's going on. I'm calling
I don't
bullshit
know.
on that part. This isn't the
I don't know.
catacombs. Like, this isn't old for us. Is still like technical use case for the new systems.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
I mean,
America.
maybe it's an offshoot. It's under a field though. Maybe it's an offshoot that doesn't get used. I don't know. But
And that's another thing. Like, why the hell is there such big storm drain systems in this fucking area that it used to only be a field, right? What state were they in?
Philadelphia, so Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, no, there's no fucking way, dude. No fucking way.
I don't know. I'm no expert on infrastructure, but I will say it's funny because if you remember the episodes we were talking about last week, how we said during the episode with the zombie that Sam breaks his arm,
Hmm.
and that's based on real life injury at the time, and that he has to wear a cast this whole episode, so everything he does is with one hand. Like that's why he was barely in it. That's why he wasn't in any of the real scenes of like them crawling through the freaking walls or anything. He was only in the rooms.
Really?
He was Yeah, because he actually broke his arm, so he was in a cast.
Huh?
But
I didn't even remember that and put two and two together. That's crazy.
I mean, this episode, I'll give this episode. I would give this episode like a 3.8. Honestly, I don't think it was
Yeah,
amazing, but it was good.
it was entertaining. I'll give it that. The beginning was really like good. I thought the ghost was
Yeah,
lackluster, and then like I don't really care about the murder mystery shit, but I'm
I
giving
mean it's.
3.5.
I mean, I will give it to them. They stuck to the truth about H. Holmes, which is interesting enough that you can make a TV show about it, and they have. So I mean, they stuck to the truth of it, which is a good thing. If they tried to make up facts and shit, it would have made a lot less. It would have made the show like not what it is. Like the fact they
Hmm.
stuck to all the facts, it was interesting. And you learn something if you didn't know anything about H. Holmes because it's a man. If you're into serial killers, it's definitely a guy to look into. Trust me, he's a very dark, dark man. But also not the first. He is the first. Hey, actually, yeah, that's not first. He's the first name brand serial killer on this show. He won't be the
Name
last, but
brand.
he's the first name brand serial killer.
Because the
Until someone.
hillbillies were the first serial killer. The
Mm, mm, yeah, he was the first one that people actually know the name of. So, uh but we will be back next week, folks, with two more episodes for you as season two continues. And I gotta say, season two, I think I'm starting to realize, okay, maybe next two won't be too bad. I mean, the main storyline this season is not one of my favorites, but uh, we'll see. We'll get there, folks. We'll get there. Trust me. Stick around. It gets good in a few seasons, but gets really good in a few seasons. But we'll see you next week, folks. Every Friday now. So, well, maybe that might be changing too. We'll find out. But just watch for us. You'll see it. Have a good week.
Have a good week, everybody, and remember.